All right. Scott, are you all thawed out?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. I messaged Virginia yesterday. She said it's more snow than she's ever seen in her life. So
before we get started, I just want to, in case you all haven't heard, but we've been binging it. In fact, that's one of the reasons I wasn't. Normally, I'm like one of the first people on the call, but tonight we had to stop in mid-show because we've been watching the Muppet Show on Disney Plus. And if you are unaware, Disney Plus now has almost all of the Muppet Show episodes. The ones they don't have are still tied up in music rights negotiations.
We were watching TV last night, and I asked my wife, "Hey, you want to watch the Muppet Show?" "No, I don't want to watch the Muppet Show a little bit." And I said,
"Who doesn't love the Muppet Show?"
That's what everybody's doing right now. She said, "I don't care. I don't want to watch it." And I said, "I want a divorce."
You now have 10 seconds to comply.
She doesn't have the same fondness for.
That's a good Michigan film reference there.
Her nostalgia as I do. Excuse me.
I'm suspecting it's mine isn't the only list it's on top of.
I didn't put it on my list just because I knew somebody else would. So,
well, not on the top of, but it's there.
Let me pull up one more thing before we start. Let's see.
It's really weird because I'm starting the Muppet Show from the beginning, and I can't even say if I ever saw episode 1. Probably did, but I was I don't even remember when it came out. But it's just so bizarre hearing, with the exception of Kermit, who Henson pretty much Kermit was already established by that point, but hearing the voices of the characters in their like early stages where they hadn't quite evolved into the voices we're used to yet.
Yeah,
Miss Piggy was a big one, big difference, wasn't
what I've noticed is that they use the Piggy Muppet for other. It's not always Piggy when she's on the screen,
right?
When Oz is doing Miss Piggy, she's got the Miss Piggy voice, but also you'll see the Miss Piggy Muppet like in the ballroom scenes, and there'll be a different voice, and it's just another pig,
right?
Yeah, they used to do that on Sesame Street because like Elmo was on Sesame Street before he was Elmo. At one time he was just a little red puppet,
Yeah. And we just watched.
What is your hatred for Elmo?
I hate Elmo so much. I had forgotten that Sandy Duncan Rita Moreno was their first guest, and then Sandy Duncan was their second one. And I had forgotten that I had such a crush on Sandy Duncan when I was a kid.
I remember when Sandy Duncan was on the Scooby Doo.
She was on. She and Roddy McDowell were on like everything back in the 70s and 80s. But I was
what I do like about the Muppet Show is that they never had the same guest star twice.
Yeah,
they never had anybody come back, and on purpose.
Really?
They didn't want to be like Saturday Night Live where they have Alec Baldwin's been on there 25 times.
Well, Steve Martin was the first multiple returning guest. He I don't know if he still has the record, but I know he was at some point he had the most
I think the record is now it's either Alec Baldwin or Tom Hanks now because they're on. Steve Martin doesn't come on there very often anymore, but they still do.
Yeah.
What were you going? You were going to say something about Sharon.
Oh! It was just we were watching the one with Sandy Duncan, and she was playing some math game on her computer that she really likes now, which actually makes me very happy. But she was looking over, and I was like, "Honey, do you know who that is?" And she's like, "No." I said, "Remember the movie The Cat from Outer Space?" "Yeah, that's the girl who was on The Cat from Outer." Oh, okay.
I remember as a kid, I had no idea who Sandy Duncan was until she took over on the Hogan Family.
Yeah.
When
I don't even know what that is.
Valerie Harper.
Okay, what was the girl that played? What was the girl that played on Valerie's Family? What was her name? Valerie
Harper.
Valerie Harper. Yeah. So, yeah, she did. She has a sitcom in the 80s called Valeries Family.
No, it was just Valerie.
It was just huh?
Just Valerie.
Oh yeah, it was just Valerie. So it was just a regular family sitcom. It was her husband, and 3 kids. Jason Bateman was one of her sons. And she went at the end of the first season and asked for more money, and they told her no. And they said, well, the name of the show is Valerie. What are you going to do? Kill me? And they did. They killed her character.
I thought she actually died.
No.
She only died a couple of years ago. She was sick. She had brain cancer.
Yeah.
But she beat it for a long time. She only passed away like last year or maybe 2 years.
Yeah, it hasn't been very long at all. But yeah, so they had the house caught on fire and she died in the fire. And then the next season they had a big a contest where why are you shaking your head? That's not why I remember the house burning down.
No, the premiere, the season premiere, they mentioned that it had been 6 months since the mom had died. I don't think they even specified how she died, just that she had been dead for 6 months. And I believe it was that first episode of the season with the new title that the house burned down in that episode.
Oh, okay, that makes sense too. But they had a big contest where you could vote on what you wanted the name of the show to be. And it's the only time I really remember that happening. But anyway, people voted and they turned it into the Hogan Family. And they brought Sandy Duncan on as the dad's sister. And she came in to help raise the boys and all that kind of stuff. And then the show lasted for like 6 years after that. So,
yeah, it went for a while.
Yeah.
I found out 2 things about Sandy Duncan fairly recently because Sharon was watching the Cat from Outer Space. And one, I thought Sandy Duncan was dead and she's not, which made me very happy to find out. And 2, she does not have a glass eye. That was always the big urban legend about Sandy Duncan. She is blind in one eye, but it's still her eye. It just doesn't work.
Geez, all my preconceived, all my ideas and thoughts on that whole series just gone.
We've rewritten your entire childhood.
Yeah.
And I always want Triscuits when I think of her.
Berenstain Bears.
So. Advertising Triscuits.
Yeah. All right, let's start this show. So, hello everyone, and welcome to That Super Fan Talk podcast, the show that continues to remind you that SpaceX and space sex are not the same thing. Joining me this week on the program, we have Rick. How's it going, sir?
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
We also have Tom. How you doing, sir?
Awesome. How are you?
Doing great. And we have Scott.
This episode feels very local.
Yeah. So we started a series a few months ago and got sidetracked by several things. We went and did the last season of Discovery on the other show and all of that. So kind of had to put it to the side for a little while. But the idea was to do an episode where we talk about movies and TV shows that are either set in or filmed in the states that we all come from. And we did Alabama because I'm from Alabama. We did Texas because Virginia's from Texas. We did Florida because Rick is from Florida. So I thought tonight we would do Michigan because Scott is from Michigan and so is Tom. And but before we do that, we're going to play a game. You know what? I haven't even put my earbuds in. I bet I'm echoing all over the place. Let me put my earbuds in so I can be a professional podcaster. Okay. So let's play a game. And the name of this game is the Places You'll Go. The way this game works is I'm going to give you guys a place, and it may be a fictional workplace. It may be just a fictional business or something like that. And if you know what TV show, I believe these are all TV shows. Yeah. If you know what TV show that place is from, then you'll say your name. And if you get it right, you'll get a point. And we're only going to do 10 of them. I've only got 10 of them. So if there's a tie, there's a tie. That's just the way it is. So, okay. The first one, Cloud 9. Nobody knows Cloud 9?
I mean, I've heard of it as an idiom or a metaphor.
I'll give you a hint. In the show that it's from, it is the name of a store.
All right, let me ask you a quick question here. Are all of these from sitcoms?
Not all of them. I think
most of them.
Yeah, most of them.
All right. Well, have fun, guys.
You may surprise yourself.
That one's not coming to me.
I'll take a guess. Friends.
No, it's from Superstore. In the show Superstore, it takes place in a big box store, kind of like Walmart, but the name of the stores they're Cloud9 is the name of.
You just made that shit up. There is no show called Superstore.
There is, and the 6th season, and it's actually ending next month. And it's a very funny show.
I've never heard of it.
Go to Hulu and look it up. It's actually a really funny show.
My wife's heard of it. I've never mind.
All right. Here's the one that's not a sitcom. That's a hint. Seattle Grace Hospital. Scott.
Is it Saving Grace?
No.
Rick.
That's a good guess, though. Rick?
ER?
No. Tom, do you want to
try? Those in Chicago.
Grey's Anatomy.
Well, these are not all Michigan. This game is not based on Michigan.
Yeah, for sure. I was just letting Rick know that ER was in Chicago.
I think I've seen 3 episodes of it.
Tom, you were correct. It is Grey's Anatomy. Actually, it was like the first 3 seasons. It was called Seattle Grace, and then they changed the name of the hospital to something else, and I don't remember what it was. But WJM.
Rick. That would be in the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
That's right. I told you would know some of these.
That was Jupiter
Mining Corporation.
Rick. Red Dwarf.
Yeah, Red Dwarf. Benford Tools.
Rick. Tool Time. No.
Wrong.
Wait.
No.
That was the show, but the actual show was Home Improvement.
I'll give it to you.
Tool Time was the show inside the show.
If John Ayers was doing this, he would not have given that to you.
Because I stopped myself before.
Tool Time was the show inside the show, and at the same time, it's the title that half of the viewing audience called Home Improvement.
Yeah, and his main sponsor and the name of the tool store that he loved to go to was Benford Tools.
I used to have a Benford Tools hat that I got at Disney once, and I missed that hat. I really wish I had another one.
It's actually funny because Tim Allen has a sitcom now called
Last Man Standing.
And the first episode of this season, what was his name on Home Improvement? Tim Taylor. Yeah. So Tim Taylor came to his house to do some work. so Tim Allen was playing both of these parts. Okay. Grace Brothers Department Store. Tom,
Are You Being Served?
It is. Are You Being Served?
I was going to guess that. I was just a wild stab. That's what I was going to say too.
Nice.
Los Pollos Hermanos.
Scott.
Breaking Bad. That's correct.
The Chicken Brothers.
Yep. You could have also said Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I kind of figured, but I haven't gotten that far.
Cafe Nervosa.
Oh, it's right there, but
no say.
Frasier, and somewhere Chris DeFilippis just threw his phone across the room. The Max.
Scott.
Saved by the Bell. That is correct. And last one, Millard Fillmore High School.
Rick.
Buffy
the Vampire Slayer?
No.
This is a stab, Scott. Freaks and Geeks.
No. It's a good guess. Good guess. You don't know, Tom?
No.
Okay. Head of the Class.
Oh, okay.
Heard of it?
You don't remember Head of the Class? Okay. And Rick said that he wasn't going to know anything about it, but he won the game with 3. So.
It was a psychological ploy.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to talk about movies or TV shows that were either set in or filmed in Michigan. And Scott, I'm going to let you start.
All right. Now, in going through and trying to find contenders for the list, there were a couple that they only make the list kind of technically because there was a little bit of filming that happened here, and certainly they weren't set in Michigan. For example, I had no idea that part of Die Hard 2 was filmed here in Michigan. All the scenes that took place at the airport were originally going to be filmed someplace. I can't remember where it was. I think somewhere in Washington State, was it?
Wait.
Yeah, I read about this, and it said it was on a list that said set in Michigan, but then or filmed in Michigan, but then everything else that I read said that it was filmed like in Washington State or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the airport scenes were going to be somewhere in Washington, but I think it was like heavy rains or something. It washed out their filming locations. They couldn't film there, so they had moved, find someplace else. So they found an airport in Alpena, Michigan, with I think 12,000 people. Not a big place. They brought in the crew to do all the filming. They took every hotel room in the city, every rental car in the city was used, and they injected about $1 million into the city's economy just in the short time that they used to film those sequences. And none of the film actually takes place anywhere near Michigan. But that little bit, it helps it to qualify. So I'm going to start with a movie that it's been on my list of movies that I should watch for quite a while.
Hold on, we got it.
Go ahead.
Got to add for that airport scene. They put it in Alpena because that's an airport. It deals with snow quite often. It's northern lower peninsula, and then they didn't get any snow when they came to film. They have to make their own.
Yeah, and I do have to before you go on the next one on your list, I do want to interject that Die Hard 2 is one of the few sequels that is almost as good as the original.
Is that
usually the sequel like really tanks, and it's like it might be good, but it's not nearly as good as the original. But Die Hard 2 is actually almost as good as the first one.
Yeah, Die Hard waited until the 4th movie to start really sucking.
Was Die Hard 2 the one with the dude who was just like, it starts with him like naked doing calisthenics?
Yes.
Yeah. It's William Sadler, and he is naked, and he's doing martial arts kata basically in the hotel room.
Yeah. The main thing I remember from that movie is wanting to scream that cargo planes don't have ejection seats.
If that's the only problem you had with it, then
that was the only problem I had with the whole the rest of it was fine. The gas tracking up to the plane, that was cool.
Yeah,
of course.
What's his first name? What's the character's first name?
John McClane. Yeah.
John McClane has more hit points than any 12 people.
Oh, yeah. And it only gets worse as the series goes on. He just becomes a superhero. It's ridiculous.
And
in the 4th one, he basically throws a helicopter at somebody. So
yeah.
So the actual first entry on my list, I have to admit it's a movie I have not seen, but it's been on my list of something that I should watch. It's based on a play. The film was written, directed by, and stars Jeff Daniels, who is a Michigan native himself.
Yep.
The film is Escanaba into Moonlight. Based on a play of the same name. It's set in northern Michigan. And I'm not sure too much about that in the north. There you go. I'm not too sure about the plot or what the movie is about. I just know that it's set in the woods of northern Michigan. The cover of the movie has Jeff Daniels in a set of like long thermal underwear with a nice furry hat with antlers on it and a rifle. And Jeff Daniels is a even stronger Michigan connection because, like I said, he is from here.
The antlers, like a gun rack.
No, he's holding it like proudly next to him. Okay. And I think the original play that the movie is based on premiered at the Purple Rose Theater, which is Jeff Daniels' stage theater that he owns and runs in Chelsea, Michigan, which is less than an hour and a half away from me. Also, I checked, Tom, less than an hour and a half away from you too.
Oh, look at that.
Chelsea is about directly halfway between you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a comedy about hunting and hunting traditions. And the film uses Upper Peninsula language and slang. Yeah, I've never seen this. I might have to check that out.
Yes, for example, residents of the Upper Peninsula are known as Yoopers.
Yeah, it says Yooper dialect here.
Because they're in the UP.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've heard Yooper, but I never. Okay.
All right, Tom, you go next.
Are you comfortable?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I am comfortable. Thank you.
Not really, but
before I start with the movie, I want to point out that Michigan had a boon in the film industry about 10, 12 years ago when they brought in this huge film incentive plan and all kinds of tax breaks and millions of dollars to film production companies. And
yeah, Georgia did the same thing a while back. That's most of the Marvel stuff is filmed in Georgia. Yeah. If you're watching a Marvel movie and they have a downtown city area, even if they call it New York, you're actually looking at Atlanta. And they actually film more movies in Georgia now than they do Hollywood. They've dubbed it Yollywood.
Yeah,
yeah. That Georgia Peach logo is showing up everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
WandaVision.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I haven't seen the latest episode, so everyone be quiet.
I'm not gonna say anything. I couldn't spoil it if I wanted to because I still don't know what the hell's going on.
I'm 2 episodes in, so. So anyway, yeah, around 2008, you had the auto industries were really falling down. There's a lot of factories and warehouse space and industrial buildings available, and the government in the state decided to get this incentive program, and again, millions of dollars. They wanted to make it the Hollywood of the Midwest, and it didn't last as nearly as long as they wanted to, but I remember seeing that. Especially, I live in the Detroit metro area. I'm about an hour away from Detroit, but we're like suburb of the suburbs of the suburbs. So
yeah,
so we still get some of that. I worked with someone who her day job was a teacher. She's actually a senator now, and then her side gig was as a casting director and had a casting company. Anyways, that's just the explanation as to why we had so many kind of recent. The first one I want to on my list is like with Scott. I haven't seen it. It was a 2011 film. It was not set in Michigan, but it was filmed actually about 5 minutes away from my house in gravel pits around here. It starred Hugh Jackman and Dakota Goyo, called Real Steel.
Yeah, it's on my list. Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
I debated watching that movie many times and never found a compelling reason to do so.
Otherwise known as Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah, that's all I know. Is I just say it's a Hugh Jackman robot boxing movie.
Yeah. I mean, I'll interject since it was on my list because it's also got Evangeline Lilly in it. And it is kind of basically Rock'em Sock'em Robots Rock'em Sock'em Robots the movie, but so when you see the trailer and when you hear the explanation of what the movie is about, you think, oh, that's stupid robot movie or whatever. This is not just a dumb robot movie. This movie has character. It has depth. It's a really good movie. The characters, you actually get to know them, and you actually feel for them, and you're rooting for them and stuff. It's more than just special effects and robots fighting each other and stuff. I really recommend that movie.
Yeah, I had to mention it just because it was filmed right here where I live.
Yeah.
We've got gravel pits all over the place, and that's come up, been used in other stuff too. But so that's my first one.
I'm surprised they never made a sequel to it because it didn't do. No, it didn't do bad at the box office. I mean, it didn't do great, but it wasn't really meant to. If they wanted it to, it would have been Transformers. It would have been like a lot of robots doing a lot of things. But there were robots in it, but they weren't. I mean, it's not like there was more robots than people, And it's set in 2020. It was made in 2011, and it was but it was supposed to be the not too distant future and 2020. But
Science 3000.
Yeah, it's kind of like they don't let people box anymore because too many people were getting brain damage from boxing each other. So they started.
Wouldn't that be nice if we lived in a society that was that responsible?
Yeah, they started building robots that would box each other, and Hugh Jackman plays this guy that he used to be a boxer, and now he's like he owes a lot of people some money and stuff. So he tries to build a robot, and then he ends up finding one at a salvage yard and refurbishing it and stuff. And it's a pretty good movie. I liked it.
I fell asleep.
What was that? What was that anthology show that came out last year or the year before? Was it called Electric Dreams? And there was a one of the shorts. It was like science fiction shorts. Some of them were animated. Some of them were live. No, they were all Electric Dreams. It was one about fighting robots, and it was really grim. And,
I know what you're talking. This is this Netflix series. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
I remember. Was it Love, Death, and Robots?
That might have been
the one.
Yeah,
that's
it,
yes.
They were all animated. Some of them were high quality digital animation, but it was an animated series.
Electric Dreams was live action. I watched one episode of it, but yeah, Love, Death, and Robots. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Electric Dreams was the one that was based on Philip K. Dick stuff, I think.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Love, Death, and Robots was the one that found a way to shoehorn way more sex into it than you really thought would be showing up in an animated anthology series.
Sometimes it made sense. Sometimes it was like, why?
Love, Death, and Robots I was watching on my phone while I was at the gym, and I ended up turning it off because I was afraid. I was on the treadmill, and I was afraid people behind me were looking at my phone and saying, what the hell is he watching?
You got to get the heart rate up somehow. So.
Yeah. All right, Rick, go ahead with your first one.
Okay. Unlike my esteemed colleagues, all of my movies are movies I've seen. However, they have the advantage of I've never been within 1,000 miles of Michigan. So the first one I would like to, I've got some, obviously we've got one big one that I don't think any of us really need to point out. It's pretty clear. But one of my favorite movies that may be pretty obscure by now, except in genre, our genre niche, and even then, probably for people of an older demographic. It was based on a novel written by Richard Matheson, who was one of the great science fiction novelists of all time, in my opinion. It starred Jane Seymour and Christopher Reeve, and it's called Somewhere in Time.
This is one of those movies that I've heard about forever and never actually sat down and watched it.
The fact that I didn't key into that one myself, it boggles my mind. I've been where it was filmed. I've seen the house. I've stood in front of it more than once.
Now,
I can't believe me.
This is a movie that is incredibly underrated. It's a time travel movie, but it's one of, all right, I'm not going to say most unique because I hate it when people put a modifier on unique. Unique, it stands by itself. It is one of the most original time travel concepts ever made.
Mm-hmm.
The premise is Christopher Reeve plays a guy. He goes to this hotel in Michigan.
The Grand Hotel.
Mm-hmm. And he sees a painting and he falls in love with the woman in the painting. And through sheer will, it's been years since I've seen the movie. I've read the book more. I've read the book a few times, so I'm remembering the book more than the movie. So I'm not entirely certain if they did the movie the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But he essentially hypnotizes himself into going back in time to find the woman in the painting, who is Jane Seymour. And then it's a this very romantic tale, and it's basically a romance, but then there's this kind of time travel pastiche over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the book, and I can't say if this happens in the movie. In the book, he's towards the end, he's standing there and he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a 1970 whatever penny.
Yep, that's the movie as well. He pulls out a shiny modern penny,
and it breaks the spell, and suddenly he wakes up and he's back in modern times, and it's like, no, and then I think they meet up, and she's like an old woman or something, and kind of, but it's a wonderfully sweet movie with a kind of a tragic ending, but I didn't realize, because it's been ages since I saw it or read it, that it was in Michigan. So when I'm looking through the list of movies made in Michigan, I was like, oh, I love that movie. And the book is wonderful because Richard Matheson was amazing. Richard Matheson, if you don't know who I'm talking about, folks, he wrote the novel I Am Legend.
Mm-hmm.
Or novella, I should say. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a short. It's a novella. It's not a short story, but it's not a novel.
Something like that. Yeah.
Hey, he also wrote the short story that Real Steel is based on.
Okay, cool.
And I can't believe I can't remember which one it was. He wrote a Star Trek episode. I think it was Arena. No. All right, I have to look it up now.
Yeah, I've forgotten it too, but I know he did an episode.
Fun fact: he also wrote the first draft for Dumb and Dumber.
He did not.
That's not true. I'm just
The Enemy Within.
Enemy Within.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah. Back in the early seasons of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry wanted to get bona fide science fiction authors to write episodes, and then after he screwed so many of them over, they all went, no.
Yeah.
You're not going to make what I write, so screw you. But yeah, Richard Matheson, he only passed away within the last 10 years or so. Well, no, within the last 12 or so. But anyway, he also wrote for The Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. He was everywhere in early science fiction television and movies and stuff.
And referring back to Somewhere in Time, with so much of that movie being filmed on location at the Grand Hotel, which is on Mackinac Island here in Michigan, which is off of the, I think it's between, I'll wait until Tom gets his earbuds back in. But I'm pretty sure, correct me, Tom, Mackinac Island it's between the lower and upper peninsulas, right? It's not off the top of the UP, is it?
No, it's between the two peninsulas.
Okay. You go to Mackinac City in the lower peninsula of Michigan, you take the bridge, and then you have to take the ferry. Yeah, there we go. We're going to get the map. There it is. There it is.
Now I know what you're doing when you do that.
Yep. Oh, that's how we map our state, man. You take the bridge across to Mackinac City, and then you have to get on the ferry. No, to get a proper map of your state, Rick, you have to take your pants off. You take the ferry across to Mackinac Island, and that island is great. I mean, people should watch the movie just to get a sense of what the island is like. There are the only motor vehicles allowed on the island are emergency vehicles. They have a fire truck, they have an ambulance, and that's it. You can't bring your car over there. If you're going to go somewhere, you walk or you take a horse-drawn carriage. It's
bicycle.
Not tricycle?
Bicycle.
Bicycle. Yeah, you can rent bicycles as well.
Yep.
So it's not a huge island. It doesn't take that long to get where you need to go. So there was a big uproar when Vice President Mike Pence went to go visit Mackinac Island, and he insisted on bringing a motorcade. A lot of people were unhappy about that. But the place it's so nice. It's where you get Mackinac Island fudge. That stuff is great. It's manna from heaven. And the Grand Hotel itself is gorgeous. I've stayed there twice. The rooms are amazing. The dining hall is enormous. It is, at least at the time, this was over 20 years ago that I stayed there, but at least at the time, perhaps even still, the largest all wood constructed outdoor patio in the world. That patio is super long. They will charge you admission to go on that, not even going in the building. And don't try to go into the lobby after 6 o'clock unless you're wearing a suit. If you don't have a jacket and a tie, they will send you back to your room.
Wow.
Go to your room.
No joke. They stopped us and they turned us around.
Before we move on, I want to say one addendum, and thank you for the Michigan Tourist Bureau spiel on that.
It's a cool place.
I'm sure it is. It's gorgeous in the movie. If all you know Christopher Reeve from is Superman, which is fine. He was amazing. Yeah. He will always be Superman to me and to 90% of the world. You owe it to yourself to watch both Somewhere in Time and Death Trap, because, and I can't remember if I've said it on this show before, but Christopher Reeve, he got a little typecast as Superman, but I think his biggest problem was he was just so goddamn pretty that people didn't take him seriously. Mm-hmm. And if you watch Somewhere in Time and especially Death Trap, you will see what an amazing actor he was. He was just an incredible actor, but he was just so goddamn gorgeous that I think, that plus the Superman thing kind of kept him from getting more roles than he should have.
Have you ever seen the clip? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
He should have gotten an Oscar at some point. He was
have you
that
ever seen
good.
The clip of him on I think it was Letterman, where he was just tearing Brando a new one?
No.
I saw a little bit of it. I saw a portion of that clip while I was watching a YouTube video from the podcast, The Weekly Planet. They do a weekly series called Caravan of Garbage, where they will discuss various movies or video games that they like or don't like. They just recently covered Superman 2, and they were talking about the differences between the Donner portions and the Lester portions. And they did put up that clip of Christopher Reeve just shit talking Brando.
Yeah, I mean, he was just being brutally honest. He was like, Brando, he came on the set, and it was a very good opportunity for this legendary actor to be like a mentor to some of these younger actors, and he acted like he didn't even want to be there, and he didn't even know his lines.
He didn't care, man.
Everything I've heard about Brando is he was an arrogant bastard. And
yeah.
Matheson died in 2013.
Okay.
And
that was within the last 10 years. So
he also wrote the he wrote the Twilight Zone episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
That's right.
Yeah. He wrote like 16 Twilight Zone episodes, but okay. My first one is going to be from 1999, Detroit Rock City. And I'm going to refrain from the Alabama accent of calling it Detroit.
Detroit Rock City. In Detroit Rock City.
It's D apostrophe Troit. Detroit.
when I was a teenager, and I guess into my 20s, I was a pretty big Kiss fan. When I say I was a pretty big Kiss fan, I mean I had a few T-shirts, I had a bunch of CDs, and I'd been to one concert. So I wasn't like a member of the Kiss Army or anything like that. But
did you watch Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park?
I've seen that. Yes.
Okay. Then you may continue.
I have seen that. So I went to their original farewell tour, the first farewell tour, but I think it was 99, 98, 99. I think it really was the last time that the original four were together, because I think Peter Criss and Ace Frehley haven't really been with them, not at the same time since then. They've kind of rotated out with a couple other guys. But anyway.
Well, Gene's been doing his best to alienate those guys for about 30 years now. So.
Detroit Rock City is a road trip comedy movie about these four guys. They were from Cleveland. It takes place in the 70s. They were from Cleveland. They go to a big concert, a Kiss concert in Detroit. And that's basically the plot of the movie. They lose their tickets on the way there. And then when they get to Detroit, they pretty much have to all split up and go figure out how they're going to get into this concert. And then they all have like a little adventure on their own. And then Edward Furlong was in it. Let's see, who else was in it? And had Edward Furlong. It had Sam Huntington, which if you saw him, you would recognize him from a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. It also had cameos from people like Ron Jeremy and, of course, Shannon Tweed, because she's Gene Simmons' girlfriend or wife or whatever, you know. And I really expected, I think if I had made the movie, I would have had opportunities for 4 cameos throughout that movie, and the members of Kiss would have played cameos a la Ghostbusters 2016, you know, but they didn't do that. The only time that you see actual Kiss or the singers from Kiss is when they make it to the concert at the end of the movie. Spoiler, they get to the concert. And and then they walk in the concert, and the concert is already going on. The Kiss is already on the stage, and they make it down to the stage in like 10 seconds. Like, no, it's not that easy to get to the to the front. But anyway, it's not a bad movie. It's not one that I like go back to. But I think other than the night that I saw it in the theater, I saw it on TV once. I know that when I went to the theater, it didn't have like a huge opening like you would see a packed out, sold out show or something like that. The one that I went to like the 9:00 show, and there were probably 10 people in the theater. When I was walking into the theater, there were people coming out wearing Kiss makeup. I'm like, really? You got made up to go see this movie that probably had 15 or 20 people in it. Now the soundtrack was really good because it had some original Kiss songs on it, but also had a lot of covers. It had some people singing covers of Kiss songs, and it had people singing covers of other songs from the 70s. Like it had Pantera singing Cat Scratch Fever. And, excuse me.
That's not a Kiss song.
And no, it's not a Kiss song. I know that. I said other 70s songs.
Oh, okay.
Everclear sang "The Boys Are Back in Town," stuff like that. But let's see, Strutter, the Donnas sang Strutter. You know, a bunch of stuff like that. But yeah, pretty decent movie. Have you guys ever seen it?
I've wanted to. Well, I've been kind of on the. I've been a Kiss fan since 1973. And my greatest anger, I only got to see them in concert once. It was the Lick It Up tour. And 2 weeks before they were to play South Florida, where I had tickets for it, was when they went on MTV and took the makeup off. And really? The one time I saw them live, they didn't do Kiss. It was just Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, and Peter Carr.
Yeah.
And it was still a great show. And, you know, a Kiss concert is an event. If you consider yourself a rock and roll fan, you owe it to yourself to see Kiss at least once, because, you know, their music is not, you know, I loved it as a kid, growing up, I still like to listen to Kiss Alive, the Kiss Alive album, but I realize how incredibly simplistic and formulaic and totally premeditated the whole thing is. But it's I've been listening to it since I was 12, so it has a special place in my heart. But I've never seen the movie. I've wavered. Like after I saw Fanboys, I became a little more kindly predisposed to movies like that, because we had Detroit Rock City, we had Fanboys, we had that. What was the one with Shatner?
Is that Free Enterprise?
Free Enterprise.
Yeah, that's not really the same thing.
Well, but they're all kind of in the fans going to see real people or acts or whatever, and the movie, the movie's based around that. I'm not surprised that Kiss isn't in Detroit Rock City anymore, because especially Gene is all about the greenbacks, and I'm sure they couldn't afford to have them in the movie any more than they actually were.
I think you put a lot more thought into should I or should I not watch a movie than I do, because I guess I'll watch this.
This is
I can almost see you like with a notebook, like you got two columns, the yes or the no side, and like what are the pluses and minuses of me watching this movie this afternoon?
Here's how it went down for me. I'm at work at the video store. Oh, what's this new movie we got? Detroit Rock City. How was that? Looks interesting. What, Edward Furlong? Oh, that was a nice thought. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna sit and say that it was a great movie. It was an entertaining movie. There is one line that I remember that there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where they're actually taking off and going towards Detroit, and they see this girl walking down the side of the road, and they're debating on whether or not they should pull over and pick her up. And one of the guys is like, she's walking alone on the side of the road and it's getting dark. There are horror movies that start that way. And the other guy's like, yeah, but there's pornos that start that way too, man. All right, Scott, what's your next one?
Okay, now I'm assuming, because of how we normally operate on shows like this, I might have another 2 solid entries to present. So I will just toss out a quick mention of a film that I've never seen. None of it, I guarantee none of us have ever seen it, called Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo.
You're absolutely right on that one, sir.
I'm going to have to see if I can pull that one up while you're talking.
It's a trauma film.
That makes a lot of sense.
Set in northern Michigan, filmed in Tecumseh, Michigan, but it's called Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo. So I'm going to have to find it and watch it. But that doesn't really... Right, I'll be looking for it at the dollar store for my next podcast series. I'll watch that for $1. But the next actual entry is going to be a film starring Anthony Hopkins and Matthew Broderick and Bridget Fonda, I believe. I can't remember the year that the movie was produced. But a little film called The Road to Wellville.
I've read that book. I've seen the movie, but I've read the book.
A movie based on the life of John Harvey Kellogg. And for anyone who thinks that the last name sounds familiar, yes, Kellogg brand cereals. That's where it came from. And the different experiments and studies and wacky, wild things that John Harvey Kellogg would do at the Battle Creek Sanitarium, and I checked on Google Maps, it's 30 miles away from where I'm sitting right now.
Is it still there?
No, at this point, it's a memorial marker.
Oh, okay.
So the sanitarium itself doesn't actually stand there anymore, but it did. And back then, he would do a whole lot of experiments trying to come up with, how can people be as healthy as possible? Here, I'll make some cereal. And now we get a whole bunch of, unhealthy for you, sugar-packed food product. So how the times have changed.
The thing is that they make Anthony Hopkins play Kellogg as this eccentric character with all these weird ideas. And then when you read, do some research, he really did believe a lot of that stuff. Eat this cornflakes; it'll make you not want to masturbate.
Well, if I remember right, Kellogg's idea was to make the blandest food possible because just no interest of anything at all.
Yeah. At one point in the movie, I think he's describing his bowel movements. My bowel movements are huge.
Well,
because exciting flavors will excite the passions within a person, and then that leads them to hedonism. I'm making that up, but it probably hews fairly closely to what was actually going on in his head.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It was a pretty decent book from what I remember. It's been a couple of decades since I read it, but
it was well within that time period of Anthony Hopkins really throwing himself into whatever role he was playing, even if it was a huge departure from his previous work or from who he was as a person. An almost unrecognizable Anthony Hopkins in that role. This is before things like his turn in Julie Taymor's Titus caused him to quit acting because that shoot was so fraught and so frustrating. Which is a shame because Titus is an amazing film.
John Harvey Kellogg looks a lot like Anthony Hopkins. Just pulling up
I've seen that. Anthony Hopkins' wardrobe and the makeup in the film, it's really pretty good.
He did live to be 91, so maybe there was something to the whole cornflake thing. I don't know. I prefer Frosted Flakes with sliced bananas myself, but anyway. Tom, what about you? What's your next one?
I'm going to go with a whole series where several of the movies in the series were filmed in and around this area in Michigan, and that's the Transformers series, the Michael Bay films. I'm not sure which ones were and which ones were not filmed here, but you had a lot of stuff in downtown Detroit. The very first Transformers movie was filmed around Michigan Central Station. It's a really incredible building to drive up towards. You can see it as you're going around on the expressway. Usually, it looked like all the windows were blown out and just huge. I suggest trying to find a picture of it, but a lot of stuff in downtown Detroit. They did have some other scenes. Again, there was some gravel pit stuff around here. My wife actually reminded me that the school district for the town we live in, she works for the district, and at the time she was in central office, and she remembered going and dealing with the contract where the production company rented a parking lot in one of the school buildings for like 3 or 4 weeks in the summer, paid an obscene amount to rent that, and that was like one of their staging areas, kind of out of the way, but also right by one of the gravel pits. And in August, we have, they call it the Woodward Dream Cruise, this multi-mile stretch of road and just old cars going back and forth on it for supposed to be a weekend, and it goes days and days, and it's not my thing at all. But a lot of the Autobots were in the Dream Cruise. At least that 1 year, you could see them going back and forth there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, you could spot Bumblebee and Optimus Prime a few times around here. So one other site, though, and again, I can't remember which one of the films it was, but I do remember in the teaser they even showed it. There was a section filmed in a stadium, and this was the Pontiac Silverdome. The Silverdome was home to the Detroit Lions for years, and when they moved down actually into Detroit from the Silverdome's in Pontiac, it's 45 minutes, hour away. But when they actually moved into Detroit, the Silverdome was left empty. And this is one of those it had a fiberglass fabric roof held up by air pressure. It was one of the first stadiums to do that. And just the level of decay that ended up happening to this place. The whole roof just ripped apart. It was open, exposed to the elements, and there were quite a few shots in Transformers of this just beat up old stadium. They didn't have to do a lot of CGI to make it look like that. But the site of the Silverdome is now going to be an Amazon distribution center. So
yeah, they filmed all the Transformers movies in
all of
Detroit
them?
except for Bumblebee.
Okay.
Which in my opinion, Bumblebee's the best one. but yeah, all four of the first four Transformers, Age of Extinction, Dark of the Moon, and The Last Night were all filmed in Detroit. At least principal photography. Yeah. So
Revenge of the Fallen wasn't.
How many Transformers movies were there?
Too many.
I thought there were 4. Were there 5?
Okay. There's 5 or 6.
Okay. Well,
the second one was at least 3 movies long.
I guess that one, Revenge of the Fallen, yeah, that one was not, at least it's not on this list. But and like I said, Bumblebee was not. But yeah,
I didn't even watch anything past the first one.
Bumblebee. I mean, if you're a fan of like old school Transformers from back in the 80s, Bumblebee is good. I mean, mostly because Michael Bay didn't direct it and should let somebody else take over.
Plus.
And it turned out like there's actually a pretty big battle scene that takes place on the Transformers homeworld, like before they came to Earth and everything. And I mean, when that scene comes on, you're like, man, I'm in the 80s right now. This is the movie that I wanted.
I don't remember what comedian said it, but I saw the first 2 Transformers movies. I was not a Transformers kid. Transformers came out when I was just starting college. I didn't have time to watch cartoons.
Wow, you're old.
Yeah, I'm ancient. But my wife was big into Transformers. So when Transformers came out, I was like, giant robots fighting? Why not? And so we saw the first one and I actually enjoyed it. And then the second one came out and I literally fell asleep during it. But I can't remember. Some comedian described the films. He said, throw a bunch of matchboxes into a garbage disposal and turn it on.
Yep.
Yeah, it can just turn into a bunch of noise at some point.
And you can't see anything. That's what really bugs me about those. Not to get too far off track here, just you can't see like the robots. It's just this visual mess.
So. Yeah, it's essentially liquid metal just kind of roiling over each other on the screen. There's no definition. You can't see faces. You can't see body parts.
Right.
They don't look like robots. They just look like a bunch of jagged metal pieces that are moving autonomously. That's why I think a lot of people, closer to our age, who grew up with the cartoon, who know what they looked like, then you see Michael Bay try to recreate it on screen. It's like, that doesn't look like what we came here to see. That doesn't look like the Transformers.
Right.
Yeah, not going to disagree with you. I think a lot of it plays a little bit better when you watch it on TV, but when you're watching it in the theater, it can just it just feels like you're getting lost in it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Rick, what's your next one?
Okay, my next one. Again, I'm doing some deep cuts here. Is a movie my wife and I saw back in 2013 and absolutely loved. It stars Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston. It's called Only Lovers Left Alive, and it's one of the best vampire films I've seen in at least the last 20 years. It was all right. Hang on, let me tell you the Michigan connection is that Hiddleston's architecturally splendid Queen Anne on Alfred Street is known as the Donaldson Whitney House, a 3-story red brick structure. It was designed by Mason and Rice and built in 1879. So all of that stuff was filmed in the Brush Park neighborhood. I like a good moody vampire story. I loved Anne Rice's books, almost all of them. right up until the most recent Lestat one, which sadly it kind of went off the rails. But I've read all of her vampire novels, and I love that gothic vampire pastiche. And Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston are two of the most gorgeous people on earth, in my opinion. And seeing them as a couple that has lived for so long that they're just so absolutely bored with everything. It's an incredible movie. And it's not just, Hiddleston's place is in Michigan and Swinton is all over the world. And it's such a wonderful exploration of what immortality would be like if you've lived through the most harrowing, difficult periods in history, and then you get to the late 20th, early 21st centuries, and you're just like, oh, I'm so over all of this. And it's just a wonderful, and I'm really not doing it justice. It's a brilliant film, and I cannot recommend it enough. And when I was looking through the list of movies shot in Michigan and this came up, I could not have been more happy to talk about this one.
I'll have to check that out. I've never even heard of this movie.
It's fantastic.
Anton Yelchin, yeah.
Yeah.
John
yeah,
Hurt.
That's right. He's in it too.
Okay. All right. My next one is also from 1999. American Pie. I did not actually go the first one.
It was on my list.
I did not actually go to the theater to see this movie. At this point in time in 1999, I used to go to the movies a lot. And I went to the movies by myself one afternoon because I just didn't have anything else to do. And I went to go see something else. I don't remember what it was, but it didn't start for like another hour. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to sneak in one of these other movies and sit and watch it for an hour until my movie starts. And yeah, and I did that. And then it was American Pie. And I ended up watching the whole thing, which I didn't steal anything. I bought a ticket. I just watched a different movie than the ticket that I bought. So this movie owes a lot to films like Porky's and things like that, but there's probably 300 films that have been made in the last 22 years after this that spawned from this one. It's a really good movie. It's a really funny movie. There's so many characters that come from this, so many comedic moments that I've probably referenced a lot. The term MILF comes from this movie. Any reference to like Stifler's mom, that kind of stuff. That all comes from, it all comes from this movie.
Let me tell you, being a band director when that came out, not fun.
And then this one time at band camp,
we used to have band camps at my theater in the summer, and I could never hear the words band camp without snickering.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I now have the opportunity.
Uh-oh.
I can finally ask. Were they right?
Well,
Mom and Dad aren't listening, Tom. Go ahead. Give us the truth.
Certainly not in my experience.
No, not when the band director's around, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when the movie came out, were you guys Buffy fans?
Yeah, I watched Buffy at the time, so yeah.
Because I was a huge Buffy fan, and Willow was my favorite character, and so when that moment came, I was just blown away.
This was also my introduction to Eugene Levy because I had never watched any of those. What are those mockumentary films that he makes with?
He's part of the Christopher Guest, Michael McKean.
There you go. Yeah, Christopher Guest.
Spinal Tap, Gone or
Mighty Wind.
The Mighty Wind.
Yeah,
he Show.
He wasn't around for Spinal Tap, but I think he started with Waiting for Guffman, and then there was Best in Show and Mighty Wind.
But
and since then I've seen all that stuff.
TV. He got his start in TV on a little show called SCTV, Second City Television.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
going way back. That's where we got characters like Bob and Doug McKenzie and Count
Yep.
Floyd,
Yeah.
and
I think Ed Grimley started it too.
Ed Grimley.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He was able to port that character over to Saturday Night Live, but it started on SCTV.
He had a Saturday morning cartoon of that character.
Yep.
Hey,
Now,
if MC Hammer can get a cartoon show, anyone can get a cartoon show. Okay.
Oh, in the
Now,
80s, they were giving
you
out
may not
cartoon
know.
shows like they were candy.
Speaking of Canadian comedians, Eugene Levy and oh God, Ed Grimley. What was just
Martin Short.
Martin Short, and Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis. So they were all Canadian. Back in the very early days of cable, dating myself here, and in the early days of Comedy Central, back may even have been there was the Comedy Channel and there was Comedy Central, and they eventually merged and just stayed Comedy Central. There was a show coming out of Canada called Almost Live, and it was kind of a Saturday Night Live-ish show. And one of the guys on that show was someone you may have heard of called Bill Nye. And that's where he got his start. And one of my favorite characters he used to do was a superhero called Speedwalker.
So there used to be a late night talk show that Greg Kinnear hosted.
Mm-hmm.
And not the Daily Show. I think he was hosting something before that.
He was never on the Daily Show.
Was he not on the Daily Show? Okay,
no, Craig Kilborn was the Daily Show.
Was the Daily Show.
Greg Kinnear used to host the Soup or Talk Soup.
That's what I was thinking of.
He had a talk show, and he started making movies, and that's why he ended up leaving. But around the time that he was getting ready to leave, every so often he would have a guest host come on and just do his show for him. And then sometimes they would just say, tonight we're going to show an episode of SCTV. And that's how I originally watched that show. But anyway, Eugene Levy, he had in his contract that he could pretty much do whatever he wanted with his lines. If he wanted to improvise, he could improvise, and because he read the script and he didn't really like his character in the script, but he agreed to do the movie anyway. And when the movie came out, when the finished product, about 90% of his lines were improvised.
Well, yeah, because in a movie like that, if there's one person you're going to let improvise around the script, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
Because who else you got? Mina Suvari? Tara Reid? Chris Klein?
That movie has had so they made 3 sequels to that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did a whole bunch of spinoffs.
Oh, all direct-to-video stuff.
Yeah, it was. You got American Pie 2, American Wedding, and then American Reunion. But then, yes, they started doing a bunch of spinoffs. Most of them featuring Eugene Levy. I think one of them was American Pie's The Naked Mile.
Yeah,
I think was one of them.
Yeah.
They were essentially trying to turn themselves into a new National Lampoon, like a new comedy brand, with the American Pie label over the top.
They would try to have one or two characters from the main movies that would be like the character that would cross over. So it was usually Eugene Levy. A couple of times it was Stifler's little brother that was in American Pie 2. And then as he got older, he was in a few of these movies and stuff. I don't even know if it was played by the same actor, but it was that character.
I guarantee no one cared.
But there may have been some second unit establishing shots actually filmed in Michigan, but all the principal photography was filmed in Southern California. But the movie takes place in Michigan.
Yeah, so. And the city it takes place in is fake.
Oh, really?
East Great Falls, Michigan does not exist.
I know American Pie 2, they filmed some of it in Michigan because it's about going on summer vacation to Lake Michigan. Yeah. And I think they filmed it, at least the beach scenes, I think they filmed at Lake Michigan because there's a big difference between the beach at Lake Michigan and like the beach at an ocean somewhere. Mm. So it's So there you go.
Well, I mean, if you're on the beach at Lake Michigan, you usually can't see across. So you hear that ocean comparison quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife has been to Chicago, and she said seeing the Great Lakes like on TV or something is completely different than seeing it in real life. I don't know. I've never been that far north. Well, I have. I went to New York, but I've never been to like the Midwest, Okay.
Sometimes I find it hard to consider it worth the trip because, the Great Lakes are nice, but even in the middle of the summer, that water is cold as hell.
Cold.
Oh, yeah.
It's some cold water.
All right, Scott, what's the next one on your list?
Next up, I'm going to act as though this is the last entry that I'll get to present. So I will I'll end with one that really set the tone for a lot of the goth kids of my generation. It was this was a clarion call to them when this movie came out. I want to say it was 1994, but don't quote me on that. Co-starring Ernie Hudson, Michael Wincott, and featuring the final film performance of the gone too soon, late, great Brandon Lee. It is the first installment of this series, and of course, obviously the best, The Crow.
Yep.
Other shows would have like some music or a trailer portion drop in here. I should have had some prepared. Sorry, guys. This movie is really good. It's a good movie. I don't know why they keep. Yeah. Like they did with the movie. But I don't know why there is still talk of trying to remake this film. It's not necessary. You don't have to remake it. This one's fine. Just go back and watch the original. It's still
are any remakes necessary? But I digress. Is any movie necessary?
I should have warned you that would be coming.
Touche.
Sean and I have had this conversation numerous times.
I remember always enjoying this film. It's always a fun watch. It's highly quotable. It's very dark. It's very atmospheric. The action is great, and owing mostly to the fact that when Brandon Lee was in a film, he would often handle most of the fight choreography. Now, not to say that this is a martial arts film by any stretch, certainly not. But anything that was even close to hand-to-hand combat, Brandon Lee was always heavily involved in it. And the if anyone has I don't have the information up for the movie in front of me, but if anyone else has it up, you can check me on this. I think the director was Alex Proyas.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that he has gone on to now. If you have it up, if you can click on Alex Proyas, double check me. I think he directed Gods of Egypt. So
yes. Gods of Egypt, Knowing, iRobot, and Dark City.
Yeah, Dark City, fine. That's
iRobot wasn't bad either.
Yeah, tonally, Dark City is kind of close, and it's a pretty good one. iRobot, I think I fell asleep during that one as well, but that's not necessarily anything against him. Gods of Egypt, yikes! Stay away, don't watch it. That's a bad movie, and it doesn't really reflect his abilities. When he had less money to work with, when he had fewer resources, he was still putting out good product, like with The Crow. And Michael Wincott as in the film, he's an unnamed villain. They never actually give his name, but he's the overall antagonist that he has the final battle with at the end of the movie. If you watch the television series based on the movie, or if you read the original comic book, that character's name is Top Dollar. But in the film, they never even say his name. He's just, he's the long-haired bad guy, also known as Guy of Gisborne from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. But he does a fantastic job as the villain in this movie. He's just so menacing.
Why a spoon?
Why a spoon, cousin?
There was a thing in the, like we were talking in a few minutes ago, in the 80s, they made a Saturday morning cartoon out of everything that came out. In the 90s, any movie that had any kind of success at the box office got turned into a syndicated television series. And it kind of started with Highlander, I think. And but from there, it's like every big, like RoboCop had a series, The Crow had a series,
Rambo had a cartoon series. RoboCop also
Rambo
had
did have a cartoon.
RoboCop got a cartoon.
It sure did. With an action figure line and everything for an R-rated film.
Yep.
Okay.
So everyone, if you haven't seen The Crow, everyone go watch it. Also co-starring Tony Todd. I mean, what more do you need? Go watch the movie.
If you haven't seen The Crow, what the hell are you doing listening to this show? Get to Netflix or Amazon or whatever the hell it's on, because everybody that is a sci-fi fan, fantasy fan, comic fan, whatever, super fan needs to have seen The Crow.
And if whatever streaming service you're using has the other 3 Crow movies on there, no, they don't. Ignore them.
No, just Now, one thing you didn't mention.
The third one has Edward Furlong in it, to go back to that.
One thing you didn't mention about
I rest my case. Yeah. Yes, Rick.
That aside from being a great movie, it was a great movie against incredible odds, because Brendan Lee was killed in a freak accident on set, not even halfway through filming.
Right.
And so they had to, it was the first movie where they used CG effects. Sorry, I got something in my eye.
I know it's sad that we lost him so early. I know it's okay.
Yeah,
let it out.
It was it's a story I use frequently in my stagecraft classes when we start talking about prop weapons.
Yes,
because what happened was somebody mixed up. Hang on, I got something in my eye. I need to hold, please.
I think the legend was that he was murdered. I know this is not what happened. He was murdered because somebody wanted him to die, so they put a real gun in place of the prop gun, or they put a real bullet in the gun, or something like that. I know that's not what happened.
They were using prop guns that were able to fire actual live rounds, and it had a live round in it for some reason. And but the thing is, it doesn't. I'm not entirely certain that's exactly what happened, because in movies frequently they want to use guns that will have a muzzle flash, and so what that means is you have to use a blank round that the gun has a bore has an actual bored barrel, and so when you fire a blank is still it's a cartridge, just like a bullet. You've got the brass cartridge, you've got the primer, the powder, and then you've got a wad of paper, and then instead of a bullet, there's just nothing past that wad of paper. But when you fire it, it comes shooting out at supersonic speeds, and you get that flash because the paper ignites. But at short range, those things are as lethal as a bullet. And that's what happened. They were playing around with it. It wasn't even during the scene. They were playing around with the gun. And I've heard Lee put it up to his head, goofing around, and I've heard someone shot it at him. I'm not entirely certain what the exact was.
I'll read to you what it says here on Wikipedia. It says that
I've done quite a bit of reading too.
They had time constraints, and okay, so instead of purchasing commercial dummy cartridges, the film's prop crew, hampered by time constraints, created their own by pulling the bullets from live rounds, dumping the powder charge, and then reinserting the bullets. However, they unknowingly left a live primer in place at the rear of the cartridge. At some point during filming, the revolver was apparently discharged with one of these improperly deactivated cartridges in the chamber, setting off the primer with enough force to drive the bullet partway into the barrel, where it became stuck, a condition known as squib load. The prop crew either failed to notice or failed to recognize the significance of this issue, and then later they had a blank bullet, and when they fired it, that bullet that was lodged came unlodged, and it shot him.
Oh, for Christ's sake. I'm sorry. That is okay. My job, folks, is to prevent stuff like that from happening in a play. That's 90% of my job is keeping people safe in a situation like that. And anytime weapons are used, that is exactly the kind of thing that is inexcusable. And I really hope that somebody not only lost their job, but maybe even went to jail for that, because that's unconscionable.
Yeah, I was looking. It doesn't say that anything happened to anybody.
I'm not sure. There's always been so many different elements of that story going round and round. I've heard that the prop master had gone home for the day, so other members of the prop crew who ought not have been handling those particular items at all were packing them away, picked up the prop gun, they pulled the trigger, which because the hammer had been pulled back, so they just gave it a dry fire, which didn't even ignite anything, but it happened to knock the wad into the barrel. So the next day, no one knowing that it had been handled improperly the night before, they prepped it, they loaded it up, they go for the take. The actor Michael Massey, who played Fun Boy, had the pistol. He pointed it at Brandon Lee, pulled the trigger, which was supposed to be just a muzzle flash, but it sent that wad out into Brandon Lee, and no one even really realized that something was wrong until several moments later. And then by then they had taken him to the hospital, but it was too late. And if I remember correctly, Michael Massey took quite a bit of time off from acting after the production, because even though he knew he wasn't responsible, he was the one that pulled the trigger, and he didn't handle it well. He eventually got back into the industry, but it took a while.
Yeah, most of his scenes had been filmed, so they were able to salvage the movie anyway.
With body doubles and using CG to graft images of Brandon Lee's face over a silhouette body of someone else. Excuse me.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you wonder why they would go ahead and do that, I mean, it's like when you're making a movie, a lot of money gets spent on a movie, and there's a lot of people that get paid. And if the movie doesn't come out, then they lose a lot of that money. So the movie had to come out in some form. They weren't going to just scrap the entire movie. That's why we had that movie Wagons East with John Candy. He died. He wasn't even anywhere near done filming his scenes, and they still salvaged the movie and put it out. It was awful, because there's a scene. I don't know why I got off on this movie, but there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where John Candy is sitting at a bar drinking whiskey. Later in the movie, they reversed that shot and had him sitting at a bar drinking whiskey just on the other side of the screen.
And for one last statement to bring it back to The Crow, I should probably specify, hey, The Crow takes place in Detroit. That's the Michigan connection. It takes place in Detroit. And anyone who doesn't live in Michigan who watches that movie, I'm pretty sure that that's not actually what Detroit is like. Because if you watch that movie, essentially it says, hey, everyone, Detroit is literally hell. Don't come here ever. Especially not on Halloween, because every year, the night before Halloween, the whole place burns to the ground, and they have to rebuild Detroit by Christmas time. And then when next Halloween comes around, it gets burned down again.
Yeah, I got to say, my favorite scene in the whole movie is when he's walking down that big, long board table with all the gangsters in the room, and they're all just shooting the shit out of him. And he's like, fuck you.
It's a good shot. He has a lot of great moments in that movie. And if anyone thought that he was, just some action star, just some martial arts guy trying to ride his father's coattails, no, he was better than people gave him credit for.
Yeah. The Crow is one of my wife's favorite movies, and it's one of the movies that we both wholeheartedly agree on. It's a great movie, and despite the tragedy, it's a wonderful film.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Tom, what's your next one?
Well, first I got to issue a correction on myself. The story about the parking lot contract and renting that was for Batman Superman.
Okay.
Not Transformers. However, I think that is such an awful movie. I'm not going to make that my next entry.
That's on my if we this far list.
Your mommy's got the same name as my mommy. Just can't stand it. Anyways, I'm going to do a callback to a previous Super Fan Talk episode I was on, where we were talking about non-actors in films, and I mentioned the Detroit Police Inspector Gil Hill, who played Axel Foley's boss, Inspector Todd, in the Beverly Hills Cop series. So while most of the action in all three of those movies takes place in Beverly Hills, they do have the framing stuff in place in Detroit. They did do some filming in there. Obviously, they've got the Gil Hill in there, and they really put Detroit on Hollywood's map when that first one came out in '84. So, just like I said, it's a lot of framing. They did do some of the filming in there, but it's for it being set in Beverly Hills Cop, they really, are showing the difference and bringing Detroit in that way. So
yeah. And it's not on fire, so even better.
It's not on fire, no. Although that chase scene in the first one when they're chasing the semi full of cigarettes.
Full of cigarettes, yeah.
Yep. That was done in Detroit, and the opening shots. It's kind of like the opening of Blues Brothers, showing all the sites around.
Oh, all the Chicago landmarks.
Yeah. Yep. And wasn't some of that Gary, Indiana, too? Or
I think maybe.
I think so, but yeah. So just like that, Beverly Hills Cop had all those establishing shots and showing the area around there. So
yeah, when I think of Beverly Hills Cop, that is the scene where Eddie Murphy's stuntman is hanging off the back of the semi, hanging onto that curtain and swinging around. That's the first scene that comes to mind.
Yep.
If you want to talk about Eddie Murphy's stuntman, then you go forward to the scene at the country club in Beverly Hills where he throws Breaking Bad's Mike Ehrmantraut, played by Jonathan Banks.
Yeah.
Where he throws Jonathan Banks over the banquet table. And there's, especially if you can watch a more HD, like a 1080p up-res of the original Beverly Hills Cop, and you see Eddie Murphy grab him by both arms and start to turn, then the camera angle shifts. And imagine Richard Pryor spent 8 months doing nothing but hitting the gym. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like, is throwing Jonathan Banks, stunt guy, over the table. Just big bushy mustache, a lot more hair than Eddie Murphy has, and easily twice his size. Just hucking that guy over the table. It's hilarious.
It's almost like some comedies, like Leslie Nielsen movies, kind of come to mind when they'll show the stunt double, but they'll make it obvious that it's a stunt double, so it'll almost be like there's a woman and then her stunt double is some man with a wig on or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like if you watch Star Trek the original series on the Blu-rays, and it's like, ow. Those guys don't even look anything like Shatner anymore.
Yeah.
Kirk and Khan's fight was a really bad one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a grand example.
Or in Mirror Mirror, where Nimoy's stunt double is literally painted green, and you're like, what the hell?
All right.
Spaceballs.
Rick.
Spaceballs for the stunt doubles, though.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. I presume this is our last time through. So
probably.
I'm just gonna throw out really quickly, because it's the elephant in the room. I don't really think we need to talk about it because it's a classic. But RoboCop, obviously. Scott's got the Ed 209 on his train. I've got the quote there. RoboCop takes place in Detroit, and I think a lot of it was shot in Michigan. So if you haven't seen RoboCop, again, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. So, I guarantee you that both Tom and I were far too young to see this movie when we saw this movie.
Probably.
Well, you know, the thing about
it just came out in 2014. What are you talking about?
You hush your
get
mouth.
out.
You be ashamed of yourself,
blasphemer.
Sean.
No.
I was 11.
The funny thing I want to say about RoboCop, just really quickly, when it came out, my then girlfriend and I at the time were like, because the posters came out, and it was like, oh, that looks so stupid. And then there was a show called, I don't even remember what it was called. It was Siskel and Ebert's TV show that they had. I think it was called At the Movies.
Yeah, at the movies, I think.
Something like, yeah. And Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert were, they were nationally famous movie critics, and they were also well known for not being fans of genre films. And my girlfriend and I were watching At the Movies, and RoboCop came up, and they both gave it a thumbs up. And we were like, what? Because we had discounted the film as just being, schlock. And so we went and saw it, and it is a justifiable classic. Not necessarily because of the action parts of it, which are kind of mainstream. There's lots of gore. There's some nudity. That part of the film is not necessarily remarkable, but there's this satirical through line in the commercials.
Yep.
That you see that took that movie and just pushed it up into genius. Because what we got what did you say? 2014 was the remake?
Yeah.
That was just the RoboCop part, and it was meh. I saw it, it was fine, but it was not remarkable. It was the commercials in the original RoboCop movie that made it genius, that took it from just being a classic B-grade action science fiction action film and moved it up into being a classic.
It's why I firmly believe, and no one will convince me otherwise, that RoboCop and Starship Troopers are in a shared universe.
I was thinking that
because Paul Verhoeven put his take on the commercials in universe on both those films.
Yeah. I need to rewatch Starship. I only saw it the one time, and I was pissed that it didn't really bear any resemblance to the book.
Not at all. Paul Verhoeven read half of the book, and then he stopped and said, "I don't like it. It's depressing. No, I don't like it."
Well, the thing that pissed me off is I wanted to see the goddamn power armor, and
exactly. That would have been great. Now, here's the thing: if you want to endure the sequel to Starship Troopers and then get to the third Starship Troopers, then you'll see power armor. They introduce power armor in the third movie. It's not good.
It's not worth it.
Not good.
Now, RoboCop is another movie that had more sequels than you think it did.
No, I know how many. And I saw
it had three. I mean, there was two sequels, but then they had a trilogy of movies that they made for the Sci-Fi Channel later on, like in the last 15 years or so. Yeah. Okay, four of them.
There are four of them. It was called RoboCop Prime Directives.
Yeah.
And it takes
they're bad.
Oh yeah, they're not good, but it takes you on a journey. The first movie starts, and RoboCop has been on the streets and in service for over a decade. It's getting to the point where they no longer make the parts that they use to construct him, so they can't get replacements when he gets damaged. He's getting old, busted, and having a hard time keeping himself together. And then he finally gets a solid refit, and his former partner, which didn't show up in any of the original movies, but they just invent this former partner that he had, who's now like working for some security consultation agency or something. Then he ends up getting turned into an evil RoboCop. So now it's RoboCop versus RoboCop. And when they decide to have a gunfight, I swear they add an extra 5 minutes of just aimless firing of automatic weapons that serves no purpose whatsoever. It's just a bunch of guns going off for no reason at all. This is put you to sleep action through and through. And they do this for 4 movies worth.
Yeah. Yeah, it went on, and I was listening to a podcast that did like a retrospective of all the RoboCop movies, and so I watched those movies as they were reviewing them, and yeah, they're rough. And they did a TV series.
If it was a retrospective series, that sounds like Now Playing. Is that what it was?
It was Now Playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a TV series of RoboCop. They did a cartoon.
Yeah.
But they did an actual like a live action syndicated TV series that if you watch RoboCop 3, the TV series is a lot like RoboCop 3. It's kind of
cheap.
along those lines.
Cheap.
Yeah, cheap.
But anyway,
no cursing, no blood.
Hey, gotta interject. RoboCop was not filmed in Michigan at all.
Oh, really?
Oh, none of it?
It was, according to IMDb, everything was in, almost everything was in Texas, most of it Dallas.
Oh, well, there you go.
I remember reading that before. Yeah, it takes place in Detroit, but it's not. Yeah, but it was filmed in Texas.
I'm sorry. The very first one is Detroit, Michigan. For one.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. Again, fix it in post. Take that out.
But the movie I really wanted to mention was every now and then, not so much now that you can't just go to Blockbuster and rent a movie. In the early years of my marriage to my wife, she would just every now and then just come home with, "Hey, I picked this up. It looks like fun. Let's watch it." And that's how I saw Kinky Boots. And what was the one with Helen Mirren and the women doing the calendar? It was like Calendar Girls, which was Kinky Boots, Calendar Girls were wonderful movies. And then she brought home, or maybe I did. It doesn't matter. A movie called Whip It, which starred Elliot Page, who at the time was still Ellen Page.
Yep, that's right.
And it's about a young girl and her friend who get into the world of roller derby.
Oh, is that the one that Drew Barrymore directed or something like that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
And it is a wonderful movie. It's, it's not grim. It's, there's some drama to it, but for me to say I enjoyed a movie about just regular people doing normal things, this movie is sweet and wonderful and heartwarming. And I have a lot of former students / friends who are into before COVID, were getting into roller derby. And so that movie allowed me to kind of relate to what they were doing. And, I don't know about you guys. To me, roller derby was kind of right up there with pro wrestling, in that it was something that was on TV on Saturday mornings and Saturday afternoons that was not in any way interesting to me, but it was too early to go outside and my parents were still asleep. And we didn't have video games when I was a kid. God damn, you are. So roller derby was just not anything that ever appeared on my radar as something that would be interesting. It was just people roller skating in a circle. But this movie is beautiful. And I love Elliot Page. I love their work. I can't remember if I've seen Juno all the way through. I know I've seen most of it. But they were also in Inception, right? Am I remembering right?
Yeah. Yes.
I've never seen them do anything I didn't like. And Whip It is just such a wonderful movie. There's great characters in it. It's a wonderful story. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And the Michigan connection is that, let me see. It was filmed. The movie was filmed in Michigan, thanks to tax breaks, in Detroit, Ypsilanti, Ferndale, Hamtramck.
Yep.
Hamtramck. Okay. Saline and Birch Run. And also, by the way, just to throw this out there, Ypsilanti is where Mystery Science Theater 3000 was made.
Okay.
And just to help you out a little bit, it's pronounced like an I. It's Ypsilanti.
Ypsilanti? Oh,
yep.
Excuse me.
And
I'll give you a list of some Florida locations, and we'll have a pronunciation on.
And give you some Alabama locations that they're all Indian words.
We got a couple of those as well.
I mean, we've got
I believe we might have mentioned
Tallapoosa, Tuskegee.
I believe we might have mentioned Pontiac.
Yeah.
What is Gratiot and who is Michigan Man? We have a comment. Oh, it's you guys.
No, that's me.
Oh, okay.
That's Gratiot. So
okay. Well, there's I spent 3 years in Louisiana, and there is a town. Let me see if I can remember how to spell it. It's Natc. I gotta look it up.
While you're doing that, just to throw this out there, Elliot Page's pronoun is he.
They're he. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're talking about pronunciations and spellings, and anyone who's not aware, we were talking about Mackinac Island earlier. Yeah, it's not Mackinac.
Mackinac.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That's how it's spelled.
Let me ask you guys.
Mackinac.
All right. How would you pronounce this? Natchitoches.
You lost me at NAT. I have to write that down.
In the chat.
Yeah, throw it in the group chat so we can see that.
Natchitoches. Natchitoche.
All right. You want to know how it's really pronounced?
Natchitoche?
Natchitoches.
Oh.
Yikes.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, Whip It is a great, wonderful, leaves you with a smile on your face movie.
All right. My last one is going to be from 1959, Anatomy of a Murder, starring Jimmy Stewart, Lee Remick, and George C. Scott. I'm kind of a sucker for crime movies and courtroom dramas and stuff, and this is one of the best courtroom / mystery stories that I've seen. It's centered around a rape case, which is really controversial for 1959.
Although
because when you watch it,
yeah,
but when you watch an old black and white movie and then they start throwing out words like rape and they start throwing out words like panties and things like that, and you're like, this is kind of different from, this is not like an episode of Andy Griffith or something like that, But this is a movie that kind of drags you in because I actually had it on in the background while I was doing something else, and then that something else didn't get done because I just ended up sitting there and watching this movie. It's filmed at a lot of locations all up and down the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just a really good, solid movie that I enjoy going back to every few years or so and watching. It's I don't know if it's one of Jimmy Stewart's last movies. It was 59. He looked kind of old in the movie, so I don't really remember how long Jimmy Stewart stuck around making movies. It's through the 60s, right?
I mean, he was born in the 30s, I think. Let's look him up.
Yeah, I can look and see what his last movie was.
Google to the rescue.
He didn't die until like the mid 90s or something like that.
He died in 97. Yeah.
He
was done. Yeah, he was. Oh wow, he was born in 1908. Wow.
Filmography. Oh, my computer tries to keep up with what I'm doing here. Come on. Ooh, that's a long Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
Filmography. Yeah, his last movie was in 1978. So I guess he was around for about 20 years after this movie. But he was, I don't know. He was starting to look a little old in this movie. So it's not like the young guy from It's a Wonderful Life that I remember. But yeah, I recommend it. Lee Remick, she was a good actress. She's in another one of my favorite classic movies, which was the Detective with Frank Sinatra.
The prequel to Die Hard.
Kind of, yeah, sort of. There's a whole story that goes with that, but yeah. So check that out. All right. Anybody want to throw out an honorable mention before we close up shop?
Yes. Set in Detroit, and there is more to Michigan than Detroit, despite what it may sound like. Set in Detroit, not filmed anywhere there. Trying to see which one. Season 3, episode 11 of Star Trek Enterprise, called Carpenter Street, where Captain Archer and T'Pol go to 21st century Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
That looked nothing like it.
With guest star Jeffrey Dean Morgan as one of the Xindi reptilians.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I go back. I don't remember that. My honorable mention would be 8 Mile, because I'm not an Eminem fan. That's why it's not actually on my list. I'm not an Eminem fan. I listened to his mainstream stuff that came on the radio, but I never bought an Eminem album or anything. But this movie, I was at somebody's house and they were like, let's watch this movie. Okay. And they put it on. And I was like, this is a pretty good movie. And it's not because of Eminem, aka Marshall Mathers, because he's not a good actor. But there's enough good actors in it that kind of prop it up. You know, Kim Basinger / Bassinger, whatever. She's in it. Brittany Murphy was in it. Mackie Pfeiffer, if I pronounce his name correctly.
Mackay
Pfeiffer. He's in it. And you know, they're all really good. So, but the story is good. It's kind of based on Marshall's, or it's kind of his origin story, how he came to be Eminem, you know. And there it is.
So couldn't care less.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I'm saying. I couldn't care less about Eminem, but this movie is really good, despite the fact that he's in it. You know, which I do. I mean, I do like some of his music, and the rap songs that are in the movie are pretty good. You know, so
Academy Award winning.
Yeah, I mean, he's a talented guy, whether you like him or not. As far as like those these rap battles that they have in the movie. I mean, I know that's all scripted because it's a movie, but they do these things in real life, and these guys to come up with some of that stuff off the top of their head and put it in a song and make it sound like it's supposed to be there, you know.
Yeah, it's really one of the great examples of you may not enjoy the end result, but you have to respect the creation of it. The creativity, the creativity and the talent demands respect, even if you don't necessarily like the genre. I've seen the movie once, and that was enough. But it was still impressive. I don't have an honorable mention of another movie because we actually did make through everything that I put on the list. But to loop back one more time to talk about pronunciations. I'm putting in the group chat the name of a particular lake in Massachusetts.
Oh my God!
It
sounds like somebody choke. It looks like somebody choking. That's the sound they would make.
It is spelled. It's Lake, CHARGOGGAGOGGAGOGGCHAUBUNAGUNGAMAUGG. I brought up a tab in my browser, and this should come through my computer speakers. So hopefully my mic will pick it up. Let's see how it's pronounced.
Lake Chargagagagman Chagagagchabanagungамаг.
Did you get that?
Lord, yeah, I heard that.
I knew that.
And I guess native Michiganites would just call that Lake Char, right?
Well, I wouldn't know because it's not in Michigan. It's a Massachusetts lake, but
okay.
It's probably a Native American term that means, you know, lake with the fuzzy bottom that has green leaves and a boar died in there last week.
It means lake where we keep our beer.
Okay, let's see. Prior to the colonists' arrival, it is okay. Looks like that area is home to the Nipmuc Indians, Prior to the arrival of the colonists, the lake was known as meaning fishing place at the boundary. When colonists began using the lake as a fishing and meeting spot as well, the name expanded to its full, what we just spelled out. And that, the meaning of that super long word is English knife men and Nipmuc Indians at
Darmok and July
at Tanagra. I was about to say the same thing.
That's quite a name.
All right, that's going to pretty much do it for this episode. Tom, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Always a pleasure, sir.
Try to stay warm. Rick, thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure as always.
And Scott, thank you for being here as well.
The final honorable mention that I just now remembered, Tom and I talked about this, is a movie called Kalamazoo, which is
with a question mark.
Which is, yes, with a question mark, which is the city I live in, the city that Tom and I were born in, starring Mayim Bialik and some other people that I've never heard of. Oh, wait, and whoever played the mom in E.T. I can't remember her name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name.
Was it Dee Bradley?
No. Are you looking it up, Sean?
It's a very teeny tiny movie that hardly anyone has ever heard of.
Dee Wallace Stone.
Dee Wallace, yeah.
That's right. Dee Wallace.
She's pretty.
The casting director was Cecily. I can't remember her last name, but I know that she played Ishka on Deep Space Nine. I think one of the later appearances of Ishka. And she ended up serving as the casting director for the film, which means I'm pretty sure that without realizing it, I met Quark's mother because I auditioned for that movie.
Ah.
Spoilers, I did not get in. I have never seen the film, and as some of you may know, I have my ways of obtaining films to add to my library. Cannot find this movie. Can't find it on Amazon. Can't find it on eBay. Can't find it on any streaming services. It's gone. But it takes place in and was filmed in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
I got a girl in.
It's a good song.
All right. And that'll pretty much do it for this episode. If you want, you can find a lot of other stuff that we do over at infinitepotato.com, where we have new episodes of Starbase 66. We
just posted the first one of the new era this morning.
We have that Star Trek podcast, which is a podcast that we do that's all about Star Trek. We also have the Prime Directive, which is Scott's Star Trek podcast, and lots of other stuff.
I recorded my final episode this afternoon.
Oh, okay. Okay. And which means you'll release it in 2 months. Oopsie.
I will point out with shame.
Yeah.
I will point out with shame that I did not deny what he said.
It's a complete joke. Put it out whenever. All right.
Still better than me.
So come on over to infinitepotato.com and you'll find lots of stuff that we do. Until next time, wait a minute. Nope. Let me say that again. I messed up. Thank you for joining us for that Super Fan Talk podcast. Be sure to join us again next time when you might hear us say, "Come back, John. We miss you." All right. I'm ending the broadcast.